in the room and steal all my stuff.
You guys do a good thing, because I know you like it. We need to call her.
He didn't say.
No. Seriously?
Do you have the number? Release to be safe.
1408 418 9388 969
Enter your access code.
021
021.
47.
Enter your attendee ID number, followed by that.
Okay. Should be able to hear her.
Yeah, today I consider myself.
All right. It's to you. You're cheating hard. Here we go.
And we're not using the mic. Just, this is, everything's being picked up by one central mic.
And where would that central mic be? Right there?
Right there.
And everybody can hear us.
What do you think it would be?
Okay, we're changing what we've been doing all
Space.
We're ready.
Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. Is there anything else I need before we get to the roll call? David? Who do we have appearing by the video conference? Commissioner Bloomer?
I think only Commissioner Bloomer.
Can you all hear me?
Yes?
Okay.
All right, roll call.
Kevin Calvi?
Miles Davidson in for Kevin Kelly, yeah.
Okay. Forrest Butch Freeman?
Here?
Brian Mon?
Here.
Terry Bloomer?
Here.
David B. Hooten, I'm here. Rick Warren?
Present. Mr. Chairman, I request to be recognized for a motion immediately after you are finished calling the roll.
Larry Stein?
Here.
T.D. Taylor?
Here.
Okay, roll call is complete. We need to discuss some possible action to set a date and time to reconvene if this meeting is, if we lose Carrie. And I would make a motion that we reconvene at 1 o'clock today. Do I have a second?
I have a question before a second or anything else.
Sure.
Why, since we have got more than a quorum here, why would, if we lose Carrie, we will, of course, be forever sad, but why do we have to do that? Yeah. Did you know that? Carrie?
So,
What'd she say?
that being said, there's a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, who's
Hey,
motion?
this meeting.
You are. You asked me to help with the beginning.
All right, no.
Larry Stein, second.
No.
Call the roll. Miles?
Aye.
Forrest Bush Freeman?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Carrie?
I.
Hooten votes aye. Rick Warren?
Aye, and once again, Mr. Chairman, I request to be recognized for a motion immediately after you are finished calling the roll, sir.
Larry Stein?
Aye.
T.D. Taylor?
Aye.
Your meeting.
Thank you.
I would like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman. I move to consider item number 2 after we are finished with the item number 3. I would basically like to talk about process before we talk about cost centers.
All right.
Second. Okay.
All right, a motion and a second. Roll call.
Miles?
Aye.
Butch?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Hooten votes yes. Rick?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
PD?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so with that, then we will start with item number 3 and then return to item number 2. The item number 3 is, to me, the catch-all, and it's going to be the one where we're going to have to try to work out. Our objective is, I think, to work out how this whole process is going to work. So, I noticed that it is my item. However, I'm right now open to ideas. So let's get this discussion going. What would you see?
Well, we run for office, as George Bush said, we're the deciders. The elected officials are the deciders. We have a budget board, and although our committees are very beneficial to us, BET is a very good committee, and the new committee you just formed, I'm sure they do a great deal. But it ultimately should come down to the 8 elected officials. I'm more than willing to meet every day. I think all the rest of us are hard workers and more than willing to put our heads together, as the taxpayers have asked us to do. So I would think that the budget board should be the final decision maker. I don't think I think we have some great people. I think they are all good and they give us 100%. But at the same time, I think the responsibility falls on our shoulders. We can take recommendations, and it may take a little longer, but sometimes it's not how fast you get there, it's the course you take.
All right. Who would you envision would be the requisition officer?
I would say we could use BET, but the budget evaluation team.
No, we're going to have an individual.
An individual.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say you, the treasurer.
No.
No.
Okay. Who would you recommend?
Well, either one of 2 people. Either someone who is the requisitioning officer through the county clerk, or the requisitioning officer through the Board of County Commissioners.
I would say the clerk would be.
Mr. Hood?
Council, do you see that as being the correct way to do this? I mean, ultimately, we're going to talk about this a lot more, and there should be some development of forms, the need forms, and so we don't have duplication of services. So we need to work with the state and other local agencies and Oklahoma City Community Foundation, the tribes, everything. But ultimately, when we start awarding this money, we want it to flow from the treasurer's office via the county clerk or the treasurer's office via purchasing. When we start to spend some of this money, who is the legal person that should be handling the actual cutting of checks and approving of the actual disbursement of money is my question.
Let me further muddy that for you. Does it matter who applied for it, the funds?
Yeah, I'm going to speak up and say that the Board of County Commissioners applied for this money, and it should be the Board of County Commissioners that decides how it's spent and cuts the checks and enters into any agreements. That's just my view, and I hope that Kevin and Brian agree with it. But I do think that it should be the Board of County Commissioners that has the say, because we're the ones that applied for this funding, and I think it should be the Emergency Response Committee that kind of hashes out the details and makes recommendations up to the commissioners. And then I think the purchasing office should be involved in any sort of funding allocations that we do.
Just for the record, the county clerk's office did have some interaction on getting this money, and we were speaking with Senator Inhouse's office from the very beginning, and so I
understand that, but the 3 commissioners are the ones that actually applied for this funding. I understand that every elected official had some part in it, and the commissioners are the ones that actually applied for this funding.
And I'd like to say something. The commissioners are the commissioners, and after the budget board votes, the commissioner blesses it. That's usually the way we do the procedure. I'd have no problem with that, but you have 8 elected officials that if this money is misappropriated, if for some reason somebody makes a mistake and money goes where it shouldn't go, 2 years from now there's an audit by the federal government, because this is the taxpayers' money and they want it back, all 8 of us are subject to being in trouble. So if we're all 8 subject to being in trouble, the liability falls on all 8 of our shoulders, not just the 3 commissioners, and we're going to accept responsibility for that, then we should have a vote.
I don't think that's right.
Hold on. Let Carrie.
I don't think you can be heard unless you come
No,
close
you
to
might
the.
have to speak into a mic.
Yeah, blue spot is for the reason for that.
And did the county commissioners not apply on behalf of the county? Did I miss something?
Okay, first of all, at the outset, I want to say specific questions are going to need to be submitted with a request for legal. Okay.
I'm sorry, I still can't hear you.
Just step closer.
Questions that the specific questions need to be submitted to the DA's office for response to. Okay, I'm not going to just say stuff off the fly, but generally speaking, sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought for a second. This board has to act pursuant to its statutory duties, and it can't do things outside the statutory duties, regardless of who applied for this fund or how it all came in. So I don't think that generally, when you apply for funds, you have to have applications, then you guys can vote on it. But you can't just, as a body, this body just can't decide, okay, we want to spend it on this project or this project and things of that nature. That's not the board's decision.
Right. It's the BOC blesses it after we decide. Is it?
No, that's not what she said.
Generally.
That's the way I feel like it should work now. We decide, then if we all agree, then it goes to the BOC and they bless it. Or they can deny it, and then we go back to the board again. Is that normally how it's done?
That's my understanding how it's normally done. But again, you guys cannot be making those decisions without having applications or funds and things of that nature.
Right. And the application of the funds was done by, and permission given by BOCC for the chairman of the BOCC to sign and apply for those funds.
I think if we're not careful, we're going to make a mountain out of a molehill
Yep.
here really quick.
Yes.
Agreed.
First thing is, I see absolutely no change to current statute that says BOCC must approve all claims.
Mhm.
And so once the claim is submitted for payment, the ultimate decision-making is the BOCC. And the fact that these are COVID-19 funds, I don't see where that gets changed at
It
all.
does not.
Okay. So
Good
I
point.
guess, Commissioner Bloomer, my concern with your comment is, I'm not sure, and again, that's why, and I think it's very smart that we start this on number 3. If I understand you correctly, any COVID-19 expenditure that I anticipate having, I have to get your holy water spread on it before I can do it? Is that what we're saying?
Joe, are you there, Joe?
No, he's out in the hallway. So the answer is no.
Yeah.
The thought is because this is very similar to FEMA money. So if Larry goes out, the assessor goes out and he has expenditures for a tornado to reassess certain properties, he submits that fund or those reimbursements to whoever's running the FEMA funds. And usually in that case, it's David Bond.
Okay.
Being a pandemic in a new world, what happened is we set up a committee, the Emergency Response Committee, for everybody to have input. And everybody, there's items on there to where Treasurer's office can speak, and now we've expanded it to the District Attorney's office, and everybody can come and they can speak and they say, we've had this XYZ expenditure and it's related to COVID-19. Okay, great, let's pay, let's go. But it has to be directly related, and it has to fall within the guidelines that were set forth by the federal deal.
And I think we all understand that, and I'm sure I'm going to stand up for every one of our, I want to stand up for every one of our board members. I'm sure each of us have read the 4 pages, the 5 pages, and the latest answers. I think we probably all have as good an understanding. I think we all have the understanding. But I'm still, And I don't know if your example using what was the funds that you used? David Barnes?
FEMA.
FEMA funds.
Yeah, so we front spend most of the time on FEMA funds, and then we get reimbursement. This is different because
This is different,
this
yeah.
is entirely different. They said, here's the
Things
money.
are different.
Here's the money. We know you're gonna spend it. So make sure you spend it wisely.
Yeah, and make sure it follows one of these specific items as delineated. Otherwise, we're going to come back and get it back from you.
That's exactly right. And we don't spend it all. I'd much rather send it back
Oh, absolutely.
than to misuse it.
Well, may I say something, Chairman?
Okay.
The county clerk's office would be happy to help develop a form and with instructions for the department listing their COVID-19 related expenditures incurred and the date those were incurred. And we could form a small committee, but the emergency management team is already in place. And I think they would be a great body to be looking through these forms and then possibly make a recommendation.
Now, the emergency response group, let me be sure I understand that. That is the 3 chief deputies, and it's chaired by either David or Dan or
David Barnes.
Vice versa, yeah. Or,
All right,
yeah.
okay.
If one's not there, the
Now,
other one doesn't.
I do not recall ever being asked for any input on that. I mean, and I'm not saying that's a bad deal, but I know that you're kind of highlighting that that's, it was set up by the county. I don't think it was. I think it was set up strictly by the Board of County Commissioners.
It was set up by the BOCC, but it was set up for everybody to have input. We've had the assessors come down and given their input. Mr. Warren's come, given their input.
I gave no, let's correct that. I gave no input as to who was going to be on that committee or anything like that. I gave input on what I thought for safety reasons.
Exactly.
But what Butch is talking about is we had no input on deciding who would be in that committee, so that instead of having the heads of the department, which are both very good people, and I have a lot of respect for both of those gentlemen, they're the heads of the commissioners' departments, and the 3 deputies are the commissioners' chief deputies. So therefore, the other 5 elected officials have no input as
And
far as
Mr.
deciding.
Freeman was never invited to come down and speak to this August committee body.
Well, we'll invite you to the
Okay.
meeting. Hey, if you'll hang out, right after this, we're meeting.
Yes,
Chairman, do you want to let Joe?
Joe?
Sir,
I apologize, I was
You
addressing
don't need to
another
apologize
matter.
to us. It's that lady on the screen. You got the
What was the question, and I'll do my best to try to.
Your commissioner had a question for you.
Joe, can you really briefly go over the various categories that our office has discussed? A majority of this money should not be spent within Oklahoma County government. This money was given to us to assist the public, businesses, smaller governments. So can you just really briefly go over the broader categories that we've discussed?
Yes.
So may I make one comment first? Commissioner Bloomer, my office incurred some expenses before anybody got very excited about this, and that was the reason why we were able to deploy 54 laptops and thousands of bottles of hand sanitizer and all kinds of things, which we had the funds to buy it, and I understand that, but I thought this money was exactly for reimbursement of those types of expenses like plexiglass and such. So just to say that some of us have incurred some expenses. And
I understand that. I'm very aware of that.
So, as our office was looking at the money and the guidance that's been issued and kind of what it appears that Treasury and the federal government's intent was for this money, we basically come up with 7 categories. The first of which would be Oklahoma County itself, where we are able to reimburse ourselves for expenses incurred from 3/1 through December 30th for COVID. A second group would be a business assistance program for small businesses. Of course, the budget board or whomever is determined to have the ultimate control of money can make the determination of who those would be. But we were thinking small businesses that are located in Oklahoma County that employ 100 people or less, starting kind of in a prioritized order of unincorporated Oklahoma County, jurisdictions that are in Oklahoma County, excluding OKC since they've received their own funding. However, if there's money left, depending on what happens at Oklahoma City, it's perhaps possible that this board could also make grants to those as well, since ultimately if we lose businesses, they go out, they come off the ad valorem roll. That's the second category. Third category is broadly a medical assistance category for hospitals or clinics that have expenses related to COVID-19, whether it's the immediate response or the period between now and the 30th. A fourth group would be local jurisdictions, excluding Oklahoma City, that have incurred expenses, generally for PPE and other type expenses that were unbudgeted for law enforcement, first responder type things. A fifth, you may be aware that there's a large number of evictions that are projected to be forthcoming. In part, that assistance, if whichever entity chose to maybe provide that, would be directly tied to COVID. So, for instance, if someone had lost their job and could provide unemployment verification and other means, try to keep those people in their home. Ultimately, people aren't losing their homes. It lessens other social services down the road. So that was another possibility. The sixth would be a recommendation that we hold some number in abeyance to deal with the situation as it evolves. And there was a seventh, and I can't think of what it was for the life of me. But just general categories based upon the guidance of Treasury and what they perceive the intended use.
Joe, I have no problem helping 2 through 7, but there's no saying, and you're on an airplane, the mask falls down, put it on yourself so you can help the others. So our very first concern is right here, Oklahoma County. We have to, before we can help others, we need to put the mask on right here. We're going to have needs that are unforeseen at this point. We don't know about security on the courtrooms. We're going to need security up there, probably 35 to 50 officers, extra officers. We're going to need masks. We don't know about the jurors yet. There's all kinds of things. So, yes, helping others is a great thing, but we need to help Oklahoma County, and we need to identify those needs first. And as far as the money, I really appreciate all the work the commissioners did to get the money. But when they applied for it, they applied for Oklahoma County, not for the commissioners. And that money
also, one question that are you aware that Governor Stitt is receiving $1.4 billion that he is going to have a portal open by June 1st for businesses to go after that money? Are you aware of all?
I'm aware that as of now, we've had discussions in the emergency response, some of these very same questions, and that the state was supposed to, or cities, towns, are eligible to apply to the state for some relief funds. To my knowledge, as of yet, the state has not released those dollars. But even that being the case, it doesn't prevent Oklahoma County or other counties across the country from providing additional relief to cities and towns. And Mr. Warren, to your point of Oklahoma County, that's why Commissioner has put Oklahoma County first, and is also recommending some type of reserve to be able to address additional needs, while at the same time trying to provide some relief to the county. Question.
Thank you, Joe. I agree, Mr. Warren. I completely agree. But there's no way that we have $47 million that we need to spend within Oklahoma County. So that's why I put it as first, Oklahoma County. Let's take care of ourselves first, put on our mask first. But there's no way that we have $47 million of expenses coming up in the next 9 months.
Just to make one more comment, the very fact that our office spent money to be prepared for this and is one thing, but we don't know what it's going to look like 3 months from now. So the majority of this money should be set back aside, because this is a new thing for all of us, and we don't know what we're going to come up against, and we may need a whole lot more than $47 million to cure us and keep this building open in the long term, meaning if it does come back around, which is possibly going to as soon as we open up. And so we might need to be very prudent about how we do this and try not to expend funds too quickly, because we don't know what's going to happen in the next 90 days or 6 months, in my opinion.
It's like I can totally refresh my memory as to that seventh group. That is other governmental entities principally Oklahoma City County Health. They've expended a lot of money in relation to the COVID-19 response, and they are working with Oklahoma City as well as a joint creation of the city and the county. That would be the seventh. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate you.
So what are you proposing, Rick? Do you have?
I just have a little trouble. I have a little trouble with the elected officials going to the staff, head of staff, such as emergency management, or not. I'm not talking about the chief deputies. That the other 5 elected officials have to go beg for the money from the head of departments instead of being part of the decision making. I mean, we all hold the liability, and we should all be part of the decision making. So the budget board, ultimately, we submitted it. I think our BET works very good the way they do it. They submit their ideas, they vet their ideas, they get it down to where they know all the facts, and they bring it to. It saves us a lot of time. But ultimately, if we need to be the ones that have to spend a lot more time, and we have to look at it.
So your proposal is to have the BET handle this instead of the emergency response. Is that what you're saying?
I think that the BET should be responsible for how this money is spent.
Is that an appropriate? Can the legal counsel, can the BET handle this? In your opinion?
I don't.
Statutorily speaking.
That's passed the statutory duty. And so.
Would you like us to submit that in writing and give you time to?
Let me finish it then. The BET had the decision, but once again, we stick with what works. What works is in the county commissioners. We submit it, they bless it, or they don't bless it. The county commissioners are the county commissioners. We're not trying to take any power away from anybody. We're just saying that we're 8 elected officials. We should all have departments. We all have needs. We all have to look at all those needs, and basically then we submit what their needs are. If we have expenses, we should not have to go to department heads and plead our case.
So if the budget board were to make, so you're saying it would go through BET and then it would go through budget board and then it would go to the commissioners?
That's the way it works now. The way expenses work now.
I just think that's a lot of steps for a lot of money that we have to spend by December 31st. That creates a lot.
We don't have to spend it by 31st. We have to say where we're going to spend it by December 30th. But that doesn't mean we have to actually spend it. In my understanding, isn't that correct?
I'm not sure that's the way that I interpreted it.
Okay, well, we can get clarification on that. I think we have to say appropriate it to where it's going to be spent by December 30th, but it doesn't have to necessarily be spent before December 30th, in my understanding.
The costs or expenses incurred, in my understanding as well.
And reimbursement, right.
Do you have any idea how long it takes to render an opinion on this issue? Time is, I guess, somewhat an issue here.
So if you look to submit something today, Aaron's going to be in next week. But generally speaking, like I said before, you have to act towards your statutory duty and put aside the fact that COVID and you can't act outside what your statutory duties are. And in our regular situation, the BET meets, and then they make recommendations to this board, and then everything that goes on with the BOC, and it has to operate the same way, regardless of the fact that it's COVID money. The only thing that you're really looking at now is the fact that there's different expenses that have been incurred by the county related to COVID-19, and that money can only be used for COVID-19 related expenses. It can't be used to further fund budgets or anything else.
The simple question that has to be asked on every dollar, every cent of this, is this an expense that would have occurred were it not for COVID-19?
Correct.
And if it's an expense that would have occurred had COVID-19, then it's not reimbursement.
Yes.
It's not payable out of the money that we've got.
And changing procedure, we don't need to change procedure. We have a procedure that works. And if you wanted something to die, as they say in the legislature, you send it to committee and it dies. We don't need.
Just for my own clarification, I think what Rick's saying is he wants all 8 elected officials to have a role in this. So he's saying, let's take it through BET. BET brings it to the budget board. Budget board, before any money's dispersed, we make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners for their approval or denial of our recommendation to them. Is that what we're saying?
Exactly. Stay with what we normally do.
That,
We don't need to change what we're doing.
What we're talking about is the same transparency and accountability we have now.
Exactly. And that's the best
It's just a different pot of
way.
money that has separate restrictions, but it's the same process to make sure that all of the elected officers who are required to be able to figure out ways of spending it accurately and precisely are part of the committee that make those decisions and make those provisions to show where we need the money. Otherwise, we wouldn't have input from the treasurer's office or the assessor or the clerk or anybody else.
And the only difference in this is that when the money is given for masks, to help somebody, like Mr. Bloomer's talking about, that money has to be spent exactly that way, because if we deviate from that contract that we're making with the federal government on this money, it gives us details. So if we give money to buy 100,000 masks, buy the 100,000 masks. Don't say, well, I really don't need those now, so I'm going to spend it over here. That'll get us in trouble. We need to make sure that money is spent is exactly like it's directed.
Butch, to answer your first question, the county clerk's office has an accounts payable that we would be happy to help be directed by the BOCC as to cutting the check if that is statutorily within our limit, and that will answer the start of this whole
These are
question.
grant funds. Grant provided to and applied for by BOCC. If we start the precedent of letting everybody discuss about the grant funds that are, sometimes the sheriff gets grant funds, sometimes the assessor gets grant funds. Those are also for the benefit of the entire county. If we want to start this down this path to where everybody weighs in on everybody's grant funds, I think we're opening up Pandora's box.
We already do.
I don't know.
Okay.
that
We already
they're
do.
grant funds.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that they're grant funds either. That's what I was looking for.
Once they're put in,
I think you can apply for grants, but I don't think
this is not grant funds.
This is a
This
reimbursement.
is emergency
I
management.
have to agree with Miles. I have to agree with Miles. These are grant funds to help with an emergency.
You guys, I would suggest get a legal, request a legal opinion.
I think
We'll
that's-
make a legal opinion, or give our opinion, and then you guys.
Now,
Okay,
the problem with all of this is, in the meantime, we are continuing to accrue expenses, all of us, starting with the procurement of masks, and most particularly, Keith is really racking up the expenses because he's done a magnificent job through our contract for cleaning this building of already beefing that up and getting in and what, Keith, I think you're doing 3 times a day. Your crew is going over all the public areas, which, so my point is, we can't wait forever.
But-
Yeah, because we're meeting Tuesday.
But we can give
Money.
Keith his 450 out of reserves and then still get repaid for that. So he needs his money right away. That's something that has to
I
happen.
want to clarify one thing that I said, that the CRF funds not actually paid out as of December 30th must be returned to the treasury. So we have to spend the money by December 30th.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
We have to have incurred the,
No, we have to actually
We actually
spend the money. That
So you're changing what you said earlier?
I'm correcting what I said
Okay.
earlier.
All right.
That's why I understood it has to be spent. Or it goes back, and that's not a sin either.
And we've had people
These are
looking at
taxpayers'
this
money.
stuff for the last 10 days, trying to make sure we don't make any mistakes.
In my general conversations with Erin, and I don't want to speak for her, but her and I were discussing this, and she indicated that it has to follow the same process as what we have done before the budget. is what she said.
What I've been saying.
I would say that submit an official request, and then she can sign off on that. That's my understanding.
do we need one?
No. We have a procedure for allocating every special revenue dollar, every general fund dollar, every grant. Everything that we do in this building is accountable, it's transparent, it's through the BET. We have a representative from every office and departments on that board that allocates those funds through a completely transparent process. For us to request an opinion
We don't.
or to create a brand new wheel is unnecessary. It's got the accountability of the budget board, it's got the accountability of the public employees, the chief deputies, and the board of county commissioners. We already have a system. Let's make sure we can get Keith the money he needs and everybody else get the money they need to be able to accommodate this pandemic.
And we can still use the recommendations of the committee.
I would still urge this body or the BOCC to maybe hold back $20 million or so for 90 days and don't spend it all, because I really think that we don't know what's going to happen, and having some funds later rather than using it all quickly and then kind of being caught in trouble would be a problem.
How in the world are we planning to spend $20 million?
I know. Well, that's, believe it or not, when you start racking up what Keith is spending and what the jail's spending
I want to know.
I mean, it's going to add up, but hopefully we won't have to spend it.
These are one-time monies, folks. If you want to make it annualized next year, there's going to have to be a big increase in revenue stream, and I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon. Butch, what do you want? You want a motion?
What I want is, we're going
Are we finished with the discussion?
No, I am not finished with the discussion.
Okay.
The members here, every single member is going to have the opportunity to say their last word before I'm ready for a motion. Anyone else have anything?
Well, I've already said it, and I agree with Larry, that even grants, it all goes through the budget board with the final approval of the BOCC. So, I mean, I think we're overthinking this. We ought to just go.
All right. And in fact, I think that, as was relayed, not trying to put words in other people's mouth, but the process is there. And I would remind that as Budget Board County, the financial management of the county is the responsibility of the budget board. All right. Anybody else got a comment?
I think that basically we stick with the process we use. Yet, the 5 people that we have on the emergency management, I have a lot of respect for their opinion, and I think they could make their recommendations to the budget board. And so that makes them very beneficial to us, because those people have great insight on what we're trying to accomplish. And so they could make their recommendation to the budget board, and then we could use it just like we do the BET. We follow the same procedure that we always follow. It's constitutional. It's what we do, and we continue down the same road. It's the best road.
My only question is, back to the DA, do you have concerns this isn't legal?
I think that I don't think it's a grant. I say it's a grant. I don't think that's
No, I mean,
so. I think
Joe, do you think it's a grant, or I don't recall in the paperwork that we filed if it said the word grant or if it said stimulus or?
I'd be hesitant to offer some answers at this point.
That's sort of the way I'm feeling about it. It's.
I would have to review what it is, and off the top of my head, I don't know.
Either.
May I make a request, at least on behalf of the treasurer's office? I've never seen, and I understand it's just a very short form, one form perhaps, or one page. But would you make available, please, to each of the county officers a copy of that formal request? I've never seen it.
Christy, don't you have that?
I look at
Yeah.
what they.
Yeah, I think that was.
But I never got anything printed out after.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you ever seen it?
I never seen it.
Yeah, I don't know that there was anything that was.
I've seen the documents that you provided me. I have those that was on the page.
Let's see what she's got.
Which are the
The
instructions?
instructions and the rules, and it gives you a lot of comparisons.
To answer your question, legally, we need to forecast to do what it does under normal. If you change or make a special, procedure, I think that would.
So this is fine. Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments?
I have one.
This is how easy this is.
Please identify yourself.
I'm Keith Monroe, Director of Facility
Well, here,
Management.
I'm gonna send it to David.
Whatever
Send
you
it to
do,
everybody.
please consider acting quickly and decisively
Absolutely.
as this whole thing progresses. We don't know what needs we're going to have when we begin bringing people back into this facility.
Totally agree.
Please be able to act quickly and
I
decisively.
think that's been our point, Keith, all along.
And as elected officials, we have to agree, we may have to meet every day during this. and I'm more than willing. We have to stay till 10 o'clock at night.
We're here every day anyway.
When we're talking about the eligible members of the budget board, all it takes is 5 members. Well, we've got 16 in the pool. We got 16. We got 8 elected and 8 chief deputies who can sit in lieu of they're elected.
And we,
I think we got a large enough body that, we still have to meet the minimum requirements as far as notification that we're getting ready to meet, et cetera. So I agree with the Rick there. I don't think we've got an issue on budget board being. All right, any other comments?
I might be the only one who feels this way, and that's okay, but I really do believe this money was given to us to be stewards for the community. And I really think a majority of it needs to go out to people and small businesses and the health department. This money was not given to us to only use within our 4 walls. And I know that we have expenses that, Mr. Hooten and Keith and everyone has expenses related to this that I understand we have to take care of. But I don't think this amount of money was given to us to use within our 4 walls. So that's just got to say my piece with that. And I will, whatever the majority of what we all want, how we want to, if this needs to go through budget board and I'm the only one that disagrees, then I will defer to the group.
Okay. One comment that, and in fact, this came up earlier on the cities, because it was my understanding that we were not able to help the cities. But in the Q&A on the one that we got last, it indicates that we can. Now, and this is going to become a really interesting legal question. Again, as was stated, the state got $1.5 billion with which they are looking to meet the requirements from the cities. I'm assuming you can't double dip. I'm assuming Choctaw can't go to the state and get dollars and that then turn around and come to us and get dollars. Joe?
Now, the city of Oklahoma City got its own funds, by the way, and Oklahoma County got its funds, and I respectfully totally disagree with Commissioner Bloom in that the continuity of government and being able to preserve our safety of our employees and the safety of the public while doing business is the whole point of these funds, in my humble opinion. Joe?
But to your point, and I feel this, as we were setting up those categories, that is one of the questions that we were discussing within our office, is preventing a double dipping. So if a city got money from, or a business got money from, specifically Oklahoma City, the business portion of that. So being cognizant of the fact that there were other pools of money that may be available to either cities, municipalities, et cetera, so that we're not double dipping and they're realizing, I hate the word, but a windfall. This is certainly not intended to replace, nor is it permissible, lost revenue from sales tax, et cetera. It's just an attempt to help those people and those communities that need it with unanticipated expenses. So that is, and I failed to mention that, and I apologize. That's something that at least internally we've discussed, is mechanisms to try to prevent that.
Double dipping, okay.
Yes, sir.
And incidentally, Commissioner Bloomberg, to you and your staff, I applaud you. You obviously have worked very hard on this. You've obviously given a tremendous amount of thought, and I think, Joe, that all of you out of the Commissioner's office have done an excellent job of thinking this through. All right, are there any other comments or questions? Okay, then I think that this board is ready for a motion.
I would make a motion that any funds available from the federal government be allocated and appropriated through the budget evaluation team and approved by the budget board, and then approved by the Board of County Commissioners as every other dollar in Oklahoma County.
I would second.
I'd like to I'd move that the Emergency Management Committee be utilized to review and make.
That's all we're on.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I mean, we're going to handle one motion at a time.
Go ahead.
All right, so that's your motion.
That's my motion. That's a second.
I'll second it.
All right. Are there any questions or further comments on the motion? Is it fuzzy enough that nobody can understand it, so it's a good motion?
You want me to roll call?
All right, hearing none, roll call.
Miles?
Aye.
Butch?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Hooten votes aye. Rick?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
PD?
Aye.
It carries unanimously.
All right, motion passes 8-0. Are there any further comments or questions on item 3? If not, then let's go ahead and go back to item 2, which is frankly an accounting and administrative issue. All right, just a minute. Christie? Christie? Step up here.
There's a blue thing on the floor to help us with knowing where we can have the mic hear you.
I'm hoping on item 3, you might entertain reopening, go ahead and decide who's going to be a requisitioning officer and a receiving officer. I don't think that would fall under item 2, and that really needs to be decided.
All right,
Motion to reopen item 3.
Second.
got a motion and a second reopen.
Miles?
Who seconded that? I'm sorry.
Larry? Hooten motion. Larry seconded. Okay. Miles?
Aye.
Butch?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Hooten votes aye. Rick?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
PD?
Aye.
All right. So Christie, come up here again and explain your concern of what you think we should have.
We need a requisitioning officer and receiving officer, correct? So probably
Well, these
Kelly,
funds-
we decided, correct me if I'm wrong, we discussed Kelly Thomas and who else?
I know the motion.
Yeah, the motion that we previously,
Part of the BT motion earlier this week for it to be Kelly Thomas. It's a special revenue fund. We did not discuss the receiving officer. Normally, whoever would be her receiving officer.
and then we all voted to recommend Kelly Thomas, the BET
It
did,
was part of
correct?
the motion that got approved, yes.
That's what I thought.
All right.
I'm in my motion to have those people as the requisitioning of.
That would be Kelly Thomas, we do not
Kelly
have
Thomas.
receiving.
Let's take, what, the board is looking for a motion to appoint Kelly Thomas as the requisitioning officer. Is that your motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Do we have to have a?
We'll do
We're
that.
going to come back to that, just a second. No, it's already been seconded.
Miles? Motion.
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
Seconded. Hold on. I'm not calling roll yet. All right. Miles?
Still an aye.
Butch?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Hooten votes aye. Rick?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
PD?
Aye.
All right, motion passes, so we now have a requisition officer, one each, Kelly Thomas. What about a receiving officer?
That probably, my thought there would probably be somebody inside of purchasing. But I
Okay,
don't know that they have that,
Danny?
with.
Danny, do you have an opinion?
Is it Shanika? Oh, yeah, for Kelly stuff. I see a lot of heads looking back and forth, so this is what it's like.
Hold on. Oh, let me check Chantel and find out.
Yeah, let us do a quick research, we'll find out.
Chantel Bozo.
Which one?
We can't tell, you
Chantel
guys.
Bozo.
Right?
What happens when you have a mess?
Oh, it's Chantel Boso Mobile.
Your phone won't recognize your face.
Mm-hmm.
Neither will the bank.
But weren't you speaking to it?
It won't recognize your voice.
Oh, okay.
So Danny, the question is,
It was Kelly Thomas.
Okay, so we need a backup requisition and a backup receiving.
I would make the motion that we have the requisitioning officer be, the
Receiving.
receiving officer be under the guise of Chantel Bozo, and she can assign it to whomever she wishes.
I don't think that works, does it?
No.
You have to have a name for the auditor, don't you?
What? Ashton McMichael.
Ashley McMichael.
That's what your office just sent me, Ashley McMichael.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
And Rosalind Tipton as the,
Make a motion, Ashley McMichael.
Motion that Ashley McMichael
and then a backup.
Be the
of Rosalind
receiving
Tipton.
officer.
be the receiving officer.
Who's her assistant, and that can be the backup?
I've got Rosalind Tipton as backup from your office.
All right.
Why don't you make the motion, Miles? Miles texted you.
Okay, so make the motion that the receiving officer be Ashley McMichael with her backup being Rosalind Tipton.
Second.
We have a motion by Miles, second by Larry. Miles?
Are there any further questions or comments?
That's fine. That's good.
Aye.
Go, partner.
Miles?
Still an aye.
Butch?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Hooten votes yes. Rick?
Yes.
Larry?
Aye.
PD?
Aye.
Unanimously carried.
Motion carries unanimously.
Now we do.
Okay. Now, we've got the receiving officer and a backup. Are you comfortable on your requisition officer only having one name on the book, or are you looking for backup on that also?
I think we probably,
I'll tell you what, my personal opinion is I'm gonna make we got the requisition officer, we're not gonna expand that anymore right now. We've got another budget board coming up. Anyway, let's get this show on the road. Let's get this process running. All right. Let's see. So is there anything else on item 3 that anybody feels we need to address?
all right.
In that case, are we ready to move to item 2?
Ready?
All right. Item 2, discussion of possible action to approve a new special projects fund, and it's got the numbers there, Fund 1400, cost center 350 for the CARES Act, the Coronavirus Relief Fund. Danny, are you going to address this, or who's addressing this? Are you? Doesn't matter. Well, somebody address it.
Come on up here, Cody.
Yeah. This is a recommendation from BET. It's basically just to set up a special revenue fund. While we have until the end of this calendar year to spend the money, it's going to span 2 separate fiscal years. So for rollover purposes and everything, we felt it would be best to do it as a special revenue fund instead of just rolling it in the general fund.
Motion approved.
Second.
Now you can open up for questions.
Discussion.
He's all yours.
Could I? All right.
The gag order?
From an accounting standpoint, Rick, I'm sorry, not Rick, but David, are you pleased with it? Are you happy with that? Annie? Christie? All right. Now,
We already got a motion.
all right, we have a motion and second.
Yes. Okay.
Can someone repeat the motion really quickly?
It's just to establish
Special
the,
Projects Fund 1400, cost center 350 for the Coronavirus Relief Fund, CARES Act.
Okay,
It's basically, Commissioner, what we're looking for literally is a place to not only put
great.
the money in there, but then to set up the accounting process so we can account for every penny of it.
All right. Miles?
aye.
Forrest? Butch?
Aye.
Brian Mon?
Yes.
Commissioner Bloomer?
Aye.
Hooten votes aye. Rick Warren? Aye. Larry Stein?
Aye.
PD Taylor?
Aye.
Carried unanimously.
Passes 8-2 unanimously. All right. No further questions on item 2. In that case, board comments. PD?
None, sir.
Mr. Hooten?
Can you come back to me for a second?
Sure. Sure, anything for you.
Done.
Commissioner, is that in?
Oh, yeah. Just want to say that this week has been National Detention Officer and Correctional Officer Week, and the sheriff and his detention officers have done a great job. I don't know if you guys know, but we have had 0 cases of coronavirus inside the jail, and I think that's certainly to be commended. So,
Here, here.
thank you, Sheriff.
Commissioner said it. Mr. Monk?
Sunday is Mother's Day. One of my favorite quotes from Abraham Lincoln is, "All that I am or hope to be, I owe to my angel mother." And God bless them all.
God bless them all.
Very well. Commissioner Bloomer? Is that a no?
That's a no.
And I have none. All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back. Let's go
No,
back.
that's fine. We're good.
Yeah.
You got a motion and a second.
All right, got a motion and a second to adjourn. Roll call.
Miles,
Aye.
Butch,
Aye.
Brian, Carrie,
Aye.
Newton votes aye. Rick,
I'll think about it.
I know. It has been a lot of fun up here.
Aye.
Motion for that.
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
PD.
Aye.
All right.
We're out of here.
I want to see how everybody else votes first.
Yeah, I want to think about this. This has been quite a deal
Can you
today.
come back to me?
No kidding. We accomplished exactly.
What should have happened in like 5 minutes?
Can we do that?
Oh, but we all get to say something.
I do that.